Aiden, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Feel very welcome.
I was just saying it's probably long overdue. We've been in contact and worked together for a while now, and I'm excited to kind of unpick your career and delve into the world of managing large-scale Salesforce environments.
I'm here for it, man. And it's been great to be able to be in touch in the years that we've been collaborating outside of this.
For sure. So let's start at the beginning and maybe a bit about your kind of background, early career, and then how you made that transition into this world that we know of the Salesforce ecosystem.
Yeah, it's a fairly boring story, but yeah, I'm sure others are quite similar. Started I was very lucky. My mother sent me to the UK when I was very young, in my early 20s, and so said, look, you don't really have much direction. You haven't finished uni. You split up with your long-term girlfriend and you're about to move out of your apartment. Why don't you just go move to London? Go and do that for a year. Go and travel. And I think the undertone was go and grow up. And when I got to the UK, I sort of realized the backpacking life just isn't the one for me. So I was very fortunate that my job in Australia, which was with GE Money, got transferred over to the UK. And when I started, the GFC, the global financial crisis, kicked off in full gear. And I was fortunate enough to be in an industry that was essentially second charge mortgages. I was very fortunate to be in a position to be able to help people stay in their homes. And that was something that actually hit me quite home very early, where I'm going to actually care about what they do, about our customers. So my job was essentially a debt collector, but we augmented it into how do we do risk profiles to help people stay in their homes longer? What are the tools that we have available to us? And that sort of led me down that data and analytics path. And then from GE, went to a private equity firm where I was head of reporting to them for about a year. And then I got snatched up by IBM, where they wanted me to be in their analytics team, implementing data solutions. And there's something called Solvency II, which is helping insurance companies validate that the assets they have, if every insurance claim came through, they could pay. And then I got snatched up by another group called PA Consulting, which is probably one of the greatest consulting groups I've ever been able to have the fortune to be a part of, but also seen even continue now. Like I'm still a big fan of their work, where we're able to start doing some more strategic work, helping energy companies with their data and analytics to start driving next best action. And this is way before AI was on the scene. But I was in the UK for about 10 years. And then when I came back to Australia, which is about 9 years ago now, I was really lucky to be able to get a job at Salesforce as a customer success manager. They called it at the time high touch, which just basically means if you spend enough money, you get a dedicated person. And I felt at the time this is a really cool opportunity to help customers use their platform more and go into vendor side. Always been a customer, always been an implementer. I've never been a vendor. And then after a few years there, I worked out really quickly that the Salesforce ecospace is actually quite unique. It's really, really special because a lot of organizations have invested into it, but they don't necessarily know what they've bought into. It's been agreed at an exec level between the Salesforce leadership and the executive in these organizations. But once it gets distilled down, you have a lot of change management issues. You've got a lot of laggards in the industry who just go, I don't like change into a new system. I like my SAP. I feel comfortable in that. So I ended up working with a bunch of other guys and started up our own implementation group called Warringah Tech. We were funded by Australian farmers out in Western Australia. And we had a really big focus on small organizations and nonprofits or for benefit. And from doing that for a while, I worked out really quickly that, implementation ain't easy. Like, especially with Salesforce and small organizations that go, oh, one day I want this, now the next day I want something else. And it really revolved around having strong relationships. And I was fortunate enough to work with some colleagues who were very strong-minded, who were very talented and highly technical, that we were able to make the platform do the things that these customers wanted it to do, which inherently, once you add customization, it sort of loses its value in Salesforce. Then got a job at Seek, which is a fantastic organization. They do some great tech work there. But then I was poached by Australian Unity to lead their Salesforce department across all organizations. And now I'm fortunate, just recently joined the Ford organization as their director of product, helping their service business across the international market group, which is Southern Africa, Middle East, APAC, ensuring that we implement the Salesforce solution and do some great things with it, but also helping our customers get on the road faster. Some of the targets I look at is making sure that the vehicle's not off-road for too long, while it's being serviced, are the parts available that we need at that time? But I've only been there about 3 weeks. So I'm still learning in this gig, but I have to say, Ford being a massive organization, still really in touch with their people. And it's a fantastic organization to be a part of. So again, I feel very, very lucky.
Yeah, nice. Just to clarify, so when you joined Salesforce, had you ever worked on the platform in terms of like, had you ever been a user of Salesforce before?
Nope, never touched it. I barely even knew what Salesforce was.
Really?
I was in the data world. I knew about Tableau before Salesforce acquired it, Power BI, all those kind of tools. Used a lot of advanced analytics. Was getting our head around Python and all that. Less so the front end user, the UI that the end users end up using, and more the back end. Going, once they've input all this data, how do I now process it and add value for this organization?
Yeah. So when you, obviously, I know Waringa was around for a while, and then obviously you'd been dealing with big customers at Salesforce, helping them get the most from the platform. Then you go to Waringa doing smaller implementations, and then go into Seek, which was a big implementation, a big enterprise, lots of investment in the platform. How did you find that transition from advising customers to now running a platform?
I think at the end of the day, it's still people. The one thing I've learned, and it's something I've experienced, when someone is kind to you, you want to be around that person. So regardless of the movement from being implementer to platform owner, I still had the same direction of making sure that we connected with the people who you're around to make sure that they felt safe, psychologically safe, but also that they're cared for and that they have a purpose. That's kind of like the fundamental part for me, just starting at that baseline. Then what you do obviously changes. So implementing a platform within customer side is different to being an implementer yourself. But the transition was quite seamless for me because I understood the product quite well. I understood what its capabilities were. And I also understood the people around me and what capabilities they had to be able to help me do a better job.
Mm-hmm. And I guess, well, I know that you also understood how Salesforce works, right? So you'd gone from working within Salesforce, then running a small business, but then going back in or going into a customer environment where not I wouldn't say trade secrets, but like the ins and outs of what's going on the vendor side, right? So how did that help in terms of dealing with Salesforce and managing that relationship?
I think like any organization, you can know the tool, but then you need to know the people behind the tools. So understanding that there are mechanisms within Salesforce that you could leverage. I mean, look, I'm not going to lie, it certainly came in handy in understanding that. But it was the people within Salesforce that I really lent on and said, I need your help. A lot of the CSMs that were in Salesforce at the time are going, this is what I'm trying to do. What can we do to be able to help make that work? And people want to genuinely want to help others be successful as well. So, I know that it's not a well-known value of Salesforce, but customer success is one of the 5 values that they have. And there's some people in Salesforce that really want to make that a true value of their own. So for me, knowing to use, when we legitimately were in a position of a red account, when there was risk of attrition, knowing how to activate that with the AE, understanding how the support system works to be able to, when we log a ticket, knowing how I can accelerate that using Signature or Premier Success. It definitely came in handy and it definitely was beneficial, but it was very rarely me doing that. It was me sharing that knowledge with my team and going, can we try and do this? Because the more I could get the team involved, the more successes they had, the more they were bought into our mission statement and our values.
Mm-hmm. So what I know you're passionate about people and leadership. So what now having gone back into these leadership roles where you're managing a platform, but also people, and what do you most enjoy about that side of the role, the aspect of leadership?
Hearing the people feel fulfilled at the end of the week, end of the month, end of the quarter, end of the year, seeing people progress in their career and being a small part of that, just being able to, even just giving them the confidence to go, I really believe in you. I think that you have the chops to make this happen. What can I do to help you? Just that part. I love that element. And I think the leadership part for me is if I can give and I'll give endlessly, I find most of the time people want to reciprocate in kind.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to receive, you got to give first and you got to show that trust. You've got to legitimately care about what you're doing and why you're doing it. It's not a task. These are people we're asking to do some pretty epic things on this platform that we call Salesforce. And you're asking them to stretch themselves. So the least I can do is just be present, create a psychologically safe environment so they can fail fast, celebrating the things that they do well, getting them on stage at World Tour or Dreamforce, whatever it looks like that individual gets their kicks in, like whatever, how it, like some people like to be praised in public, others don't. I find the more I give in that aspect, not only do I feel fulfilled and I feel great by just giving, I find in kind that when I ask things and I need help, people will rally and they will support.
In recent roles, you've gone into pre-existing teams, right? You've not necessarily always gone in and built your own team from scratch, although I know you have hired and built out teams. There've been people there. So is there something you've learned over the years in terms of how you're going into an environment where a team exists, and how do you make an impact as like a leader to say, to build trust quickly, to identify the push and pull of each individual, and what does, I guess, get them going and get them operating at their most effective?
Yeah. Look, I genuinely just try and meet people where they're at and come in with honesty and go, you all didn't hire me. Someone else did. You may not have had a voice in this decision. And first and foremost, that kind of sucks. The good news is I'm not a dropkick. Like, I actually like what I do and I have a real passion to get some really cool results. If you want to be a part of that, I'd love it. But I guess initially it's about listening and understanding. In
Yeah.
order to meet people where they're at, you got to understand what their journey's been like. It's probably been turbulent. I've gone into organizations that with an existing team, well, I say existing team, they're just resources that get sent work. They're not treated necessarily as individuals and they feel like they're an island. They also probably feel like they're just being used. The way I flip it on its head is just listen. Hey, what have you accomplished? Like, let's talk about what this year looks like for you. And I don't just mean this year at work. Like, what are your family goals? Do you want to be more present in picking up your kids? What can I do to be able to make sure that you can have that work-life balance? We're going to have implementations. We're going to have go lives. We're going to have things that sometimes I'm going to need your help. But in order for me to ask for that, I want to be able to make sure that you have in kind something that's balanced. And I think just starting with those conversations, most people are sort of taken aback a little bit because I don't think many people tend to start there. They sort of start at, this is who I am. This is the anything I bring in here. This is why I'm so good. And, that's all true and that's all fair. And that can work, in autocratic organizations, 100%. I find in a workplace where we have, and things that I really cherish is diversity of thought. When you have diversity of thought, diversity of people, you kind of need to do it a little bit kinder. You kind of need to be a little bit more open and human and just be honest and go, hey, look, you can ask me any question. I'm an open book. Like, I do probably some pretty transparent things that others would go, I would never do that. Like, my diary, always open. Like, everyone can see no matter what I do, no matter what level of the organization you're at, I always put it open so you can see what my time is doing. Because if you're asking for my time and it's critical, you can go and speak to those people and say, hey, I need to reprioritize and all that. But more importantly, people can have a snoop. There's something about it that you can just have a little sniff around and go, oh, what's Aiden up to this week? What's he cracking on and whatnot? And just doing those kind of things help people see that there's no hidden agenda. There's nothing I'm trying to pull the wool over their eyes, which tends to happen. A lot of it is walking in and just going, I'm a human being. I've been hired to do this job, but I want to make sure that I do it with a team who want to be here. And I'll be honest, it doesn't always work that way. Like, I've done this approach and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on the people. But I've got to be true to who I am.
Yeah, for sure. If you are building your own team, then like if you're putting together a high performing team, aside from the technical skills, like, is there one thing that you look for in every individual that you look to hire?
Yeah, Ben, I think that the biggest thing I look for is the motivation. Why is it that this is important to you? So much so you put an effort into create a CV, to engage, to attend an interview. It's not about like, and some people go, oh, this company does all these kind things, like Australia Unity. One of the probably the most fulfilling role I've had is working in an organization where it's directly impacting people's lives. I love that. That's why I really wanted to join Australia Unity. But then other people go, oh, it's a cool brand. Like, I've seen the TV ads. It's like, yeah, that's cool, but is that enough to keep you? What makes you tick? What is it about this role? And some people, like, they're leaving something else. Like, once you scratch the surface, they go, oh, look, I'm in a role that I don't feel very secure in, or I see the writing on the wall. I'd rather be proactive than reactive. And that's fine. I always find understanding the purpose of that person really helps you work out, are they good for this fit? Some people go, look, I just want to do a 9 to 5 and go home. There's always a place for that person. Like, You need those people, those consistent grinders who just do their job and go home. You don't want everyone to necessarily be the person who goes, hey, in 6 months' time, I want to be in your job. And you go, cool. Aspiration is awesome, but I'm screwed if that actually happens, because that role then has to be re-recruited again in 6 months' time, you know? So it's just finding what that individual is there, what they're keen for, what they're motivated by, and then going, is that a good fit? And being honest about it. You know, if I've got everyone who just does their 9 to 5, there's no growth in my team. There's no one who has a succession desire to move into my gig to allow me to then grow into another gig. Like that then leaves that team isolated.
Mhm.
And that's not cool. That means I've mucked up my job. I haven't focused on the right elements. So I sort of piece it together a little bit. I think some people would call it haphazard. I call it a little bit of intuition of just finding who the right people are, where they fit in the team, and do their values align to the organization. But also, do their values align for themselves? Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't want people faking it.
100%, but it's hard, right? In an ecosystem where top quality candidates are still hard to come by. Like, yeah, there's probably a bigger volume of talent pool now than when we first started working together, however long back. But it's still really hard to find top quality people, right? And then if you're going to try to align that with values and passion and desire to work for this particular company, you dissect the pool even more, right? You now, like, say you've got 100 potential candidates, you've now got a handful, and they're all competing with other companies, like trying to hire them. The salaries, like, it is really hard to get that alignment on skills, value, and ability to just add value to the business.
Yeah, look, it's really hard to. Some companies pay more than others, and that's their draw factor.
Mm-hmm.
But they're paying more because potentially that environment isn't going to be conducive to a team environment. You are going to be a workhorse. So most devs, functional consultant, BAs, testers in this space, a little bit more savvy these days, going, you know, I'm using an example that I have zero experience in, but the NDIA, I understand they tried to build out a platform themselves. They got a whole bunch of contractors in. I don't really know where they ended up. The reason why I would have hesitated joining is because I'm going, if you're chasing the money, then it's not necessarily going to result in something that you may feel the same way in a year's time. And that's kind of where I come from. Yeah, look, money's super important. For me, what's more important is being able to go home and spend time with the kids. I mean, I don't have any children of my own. And I'm not a family person in the slightest. I get how important it is to be there to put your kids in bed,
Mm-hmm.
to drop them off at school, to have every moment you can with that child. Can't put a price on it. If I can flex and provide that, and have you be able to be present at work and feel like you're a part of something, that for me is cool. But it's not easy. Like, you know, I'm competing with so many people in the Salesforce ecospace to create a high performing team, that you then start looking, well, how do I do it not just locally? How do I do it internationally? How do I grow a team in India, in Thailand, in Middle East, in Southern Africa? Like, what am I looking for there in when I'm getting developers? And that then becomes a little bit more challenging. But locally, yeah, it's hard. You got the big banks who probably swallowed up a lot of people. I'm not saying never. I worked at NAB when I was 16 years old in their call center, right? That's where my very, very, very first job. Awesome organization. But I imagine you may just feel like a cog. You know, I felt like that at the time. I want people to join a team who want to be a force of good, who want to be able to say, you know, I'm not just a cog. I actually built this. I work with this product owner. I helped Ford be able to deliver this value to the dealerships. Like, that for me is the intrinsic value of a role. What is it that you're delivering, not just how you're delivering it? Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. So let's think now, or talk platform. And like, obviously, Salesforce release many features every year. As someone who's responsible for the platform and the product internally, how do you, is there like a framework you work through for deciding what's going to be a game changer for the business that you're in, or something that's just, you know, noise and a distraction?
Again, I feel like I'm really lucky. I'm sort of plugged into the product team most of the time. So if something's really important to me, hypothetically, let's use this as an example. We're using Industry Cloud, the automotive cloud. I'm going to be plugged into that product owner and just saying to him, what's up? What's coming up? What, you know, tell me what I'm expecting in that product roadmap. So when it does come in and it does, you know, it goes into the sandbox, you do your regression testing and so forth, none of it's a surprise. And all of it is already on my product roadmap to deliver if it adds value. A lot of what I'm trying to do is remove any customization that we've had to build in lieu of out-of-box config. So that would be my first priority. What are the things that Salesforce is providing that the industry has been calling out for, had to deliver it themselves, but now it's part of the package. That's kind of where I'd start. I'd then look at, this is an innovative solution that we haven't even considered using, whatever it might be. Looking at Tableau Next as an example, the whole purpose of Tableau Next, as far as I'm concerned or aware, is you use Agentforce to drive some of that analytics. And that output then is used to then make actions by that agentic AI piece. That's cool. How do I now do that in practice? Like, what does that mean? How do I use our call center team to focus more on the customer and take more calls, have less average handling time by implementing this piece in my product roadmap? It's kind of also a team piece. Like I can think about all these things, but the geniuses really are in my team who go, Aiden, you should really consider this because I reckon this is where the value comes in. And again, that's where that whole trust thing comes into it. Because if I've got a team who actually want to be a part of it, they're the ones who identify it far quicker than I ever will.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm lucky. I get to be plugged in directly to the product team in Salesforce. They're really cool individuals who understand what we do.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think obviously when you get to a certain scale that you can do that, I guess the smaller businesses where they're not spending as much on Salesforce licenses probably don't have that direct line into. But that's where I guess collaboration across the industry. That's why the Salesforce ecosystem is great because a smaller business can pick up the phone to a bigger business. Even they might not have any kind of direct working relationship, but understand what bigger businesses are facing and the challenges that they're overcoming with the Salesforce platform and leverage that knowledge as well.
Yeah, dude, this is why I love the events at Salesforce. Like we had one at the end of last year, which is the post Dreamforce event in Melbourne that sort of goes, hey, let's talk about AI some more because it hasn't been done to death already. But what I was really lucky to be able to do is just talk to other people in other industries, small, medium, large organizations. The larger the organization, I find sometimes the more robotic the conversation because they've been given talk tracks that they have to talk to. I love the smaller organizations where I get to connect with them and go, or healthcare organizations or nonprofits or whatever the institution is. They're the people who have heart that go, I'm just really stuck on this. Like I get to support a group called We Are Mobilize, just quietly. I was at Australian Unity. We had a day of volunteering. We got the Salesforce team to clear their product backlog for a nonprofit once a year. And like the value add is huge, but that was just through networking. And we did that not because we wanted the accolades. I love doing it because we are directly helping an organization that helps other Australians who are facing homelessness. That's important. So, small organizations, what they do, I think it's 50% of our economy is based on small businesses. I mean, why aren't we helping them more? Like, I love that. Like, get me plugged in. So, yeah, that's why we go to these events. It's not just because we want to pat each other on the back and go, yeah, we're great. It's more because if I can connect with another person who's trying to do some good and just get around them, how cool would that be?
One thing that we see a lot of, and this is probably like driven by marketing and social media and LinkedIn and brands of, I guess, partners presenting everything they've achieved delivering a project for a customer. So we see all of these, like we've just gone live with this amazing project. Thank you to the team. But we never actually really see much about the ROI after a go live. And obviously that's your job, right? To deliver ROI to a business. What do you feel the key ingredients of that are? Post go live, you've got this product. How do you actually deliver ROI and make sure that the business is getting what they've signed up for?
Far out, Ben. Is this an interview or is this an interview? I'll tell you what, I'm with you because the whole reason why we do it is because there's a purpose and a reason behind it. The best way I do that is ensuring we understand what the problem statement was at the beginning, and having it as a proper problem statement, like as a role, I want to action so that I can benefit. And having it in that kind of terminology allows us to then link the problem statement that the business gives us to what the solution is. So I'd have BAs and functional consultants who can help me draw the line between the two. But post-implementation is far more up to me to be able to go, so in 12 months' time, did we deliver on our ROI, yes or no? And if no, what changes do we need to make? Let's not put up with mediocrity. Let's not put up with a 50% hit rate. What changes do we need to do to evolve that? And that means I have to have a really good stakeholder management engagement and trust with the people in the business. The executives I'm facing off to in the business right now, these guys have been in the game for 10, 20, 30 years. Like they know Ford, they know their industry inside and out. And I've got to come up to them and go, hey, I'm going to convince you this solution is going to give you what you haven't had in the last 20 years. And the only way I can do that is by providing the data that evidences that. So with every implementation, for every release that we do, it must come with a report. It must come with something that says at any time that stakeholder wants to check in outside of our regular cadences, they can run this report and they can see what the ROI number is. Because without that, it's lackluster. You've done 25% of the job. 75% of it is actually validating the result. And I think as product owners, most of the time, we sometimes forget that. We spend most of our time in the trenches trying to make something go live because it currently isn't working, and neglecting, hey, this is all the great things we've done. Can we please do a retro of some sort to go, let's celebrate this? If we killed it on the ROI and we got it in 3 months rather than 9 months, we should be celebrating that. That should be up in lights. Like that's the cool stuff. But I honestly think that the tech piece, that's the easy part. The hard part is continuing to validate that you made a good decision. And even if you didn't, that's okay as well. Own it and say, these are things I'm going to do differently next time.
So is more on the business than the implementation partner, right? If you're saying the tech is only a segment of that.
The business is the one who's funding the ability for tech to do this work, right? Ultimately, if you follow the money, the business is the ones who's invested into the tech 9 times out of 10. So if that's the case, the business needs to be accountable for the money they've invested in. But I need to partner with them. I need to be there to help them be successful and see the value that they've done. If there is no business buy-in, if there is no partnership, if they don't care, then it's not, there's no point in me being there. Just hire a GSI, get any old of them. And I say this, love my heart. Some of the GSIs sometimes do better than others. I personally prefer using a local implementation partner, one that's Australian, that's trying to grow as an organization. But get one of them mobs in and deliver your solution. But the truth is, you need to be responsible for the ongoing costs. Mm-hmm. Salesforce ain't cheap. Those licenses do not come cheap. So if you keep having to request for those licenses that are in place based on a contract, and you want to renew that contract, you got to be able to prove that ROI. And you got to prove that you're investing in fixing things. Going back to what you just said before about the 3 leases a year, there's a lot of customization that you have to do at enterprise level, even probably at small, medium-sized businesses. But if you keep going back, fixing and cleansing and making sure it's as clean as possible, this means it's no longer are you in your risk category. You no longer have to have Salesforce as a high risk or a red risk because you've got key person dependencies. You have a business that's bought in who knows what the ROI is. You have a tech team who understands the lay of the landscape, and your documentation is to a T. So whoever walks in is going to feel super confident that things are moving right.
So if you could only have, as someone that's monitoring the health of an environment, if you could only have 3 metrics on a dashboard to tell you, are we all kind of all singing, dancing, this is an amazing org, an amazing environment, what would they be?
I mean, the captain obvious in me tells me that the first one has to be adoption. Because if the platform ain't being used, then you haven't done a great job. But adoption is very easy. It's an easy metric to probably manipulate, because your monthly active user report tells you who's logged in, but not how they're using it. But I would definitely use adoption as the key metric at the top. I think the next metric I would look at would be, not necessarily pure Salesforce, but it would be how many pull requests came through into production and ended in a ticket. How many successful deployments did you do, or which line items did you deploy that caused an outage in production? Because the higher that ratio is, the more eroded the trust becomes between the business and the tech team. The business will start going outside of the tech team and start looking to other vendors and implementation partners and going, hey, we've got a bit of spare budget, we're going to use you instead. It also means you no longer have the seat at the table. The third one as a metric for saying, are we doing a good job? I don't know if you could ever measure this, but the link between what you say you're going to do in Jira and what's being documented in Confluence or whatever tool of choice you're using. We do a really good job in Jira saying this is the ticket because we have stand-ups and all that kind of stuff. Holds us accountable. Once it's deployed, there's very little governance that sits over the documentation of what you've done. I'm trying to find ways to automate that at the moment. I'm trying to automate test and automate documentation, because they're the 2 areas of focus where things can go wrong. Because if someone made a change or there's a hot fix in prod and you don't update your documentation of what that change was, the next person who comes in is going to be relying on that outdated piece of information,
Mhm.
which makes you inefficient. It also, in the eyes of the business, makes you look a little bit incompetent.
That's so common, right?
Yeah, if you don't know what you're doing and why you're doing it and how it's being done, people are going to look at you as an incompetent tech person. And then you start relying on people in your team to be key person dependencies because you go, Aiden can't go on leave this week because we've got to go live. We're going to have to find a way to be able to stop him from going on his trip to Mexico. It's those conversations that I think shows from a people perspective and a leadership perspective, you haven't done a great enough job by having the right governance and controllership in place.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. Like you said, difficult to measure, but would be an amazing thing to be able to have visibility across.
I'm sure someone out there has already thought of a metric for this. So hopefully we hear from them and they'll tell us how to do it.
Yeah, for sure. So you've been, if we look just recently, obviously the company you're at now, Australian Unity before Seek, big companies. Maybe Seek was probably pre the whole big bang of AI in terms of the discussion points. Maybe not. But what are you hearing from enterprise organizations, leadership around AI, kind of willingness to go all in, but also future team structures?
Yeah, it's a mixed pot. Like I look at LinkedIn, I see some really comical things on LinkedIn sometimes. Like there's some really good, I don't like using the term thought leader because it sounds a bit wanky, but people out there who have a strong voice and a good opinion that I rally around who go, we know we need to do things about AI, but the tools aren't mature enough for us to use it in the capacity that we need it at. We have vendors throwing it down our throats constantly. We have other vendors changing names of products to be able to align to what the product is that they want us to buy into. Not naming names. I'm all for it. I reckon this is a cool opportunity for any enterprise organization worth their weight in salt to show how innovative they are and how much willing they are to be able to continue to evolve. Companies like I'm using Ford as an example, been around for 100 years plus. You don't get to be at that length of time unless you continue to evolve and you show your successes by the continuous amount of failures you've had. But the one success you have had has allowed you to propel forward. I'm at the moment doing proof of concepts for agentic elements of customer call centers to take action on the behalf of some of our operators, to reduce the amount of effort and screens they need to look at. Because at the moment we have multiple screens, different systems. If I can hone in and use AI to pull and suckle that information into a single view that says, here's your next best action, these are the 3 things, click one of these and I'll do it for you. I mean, I'm saving people time. I'm getting them focused on their customer. We're reducing the overall call rate, which means that we can process more customers. I mean, it's a no-brainer for me, right? So whilst the tools may not necessarily be where we need them to be at, it doesn't stop us from trying. Like I'm really a huge supporter of fail fast, but also don't go for perfection, just progress. Like do a proof of concept, validate the hypothesis. Cool. Now let's do a pilot where we put it into production. Now, is that working? Cool. What are the users telling us that they like and don't like? I think I know what's right, but really the end user is the person we need to engage with and sit with and go, show me how you're using it. And they're going to be able to come up with so much better ideas of how we can use AI than we can in the tech side. I know I feel like I'm repeating myself here. We need to engage with our stakeholder, but more importantly, people below them who do the job. We need to be authentically sitting next to them and documenting what it is they do on a daily basis, because what is written of what they should be doing and what they actually do, 2 different things.
It's interesting. Your focus there has been on like enabling the user and giving them better tools and enabling them to focus on the customer and free up their time, all of these things. It would be interesting to know what percentage of discussions at a board level are about that, or the flip side of it, of freeing up headcount.
I've from talking to people in the industry, some people have pretty arbitrary objectives that says you need to use X percentage of AI in your job. I mean, what does that mean? Like, you know, like am I going to use ChatGPT now just to write my slide deck? Like that's, you know, that what I'm seeing at executive level, the conversation is be explicit in what your use of this AI tool is. Don't just use any tool because it's dangerous throwing LLMs, all this information that we have, but be precise in what you're asking to do for our people. And I've been given some really precise objectives to go, we need to trial what AI capabilities that Salesforce has given us. Like, we can't just wait for someone else to do it. I mean, we could, but I don't think we'd be a great organization if we did that. I think most organizations are waiting for the first person to take the plunge. Or if they are doing it behind closed doors, they're not sharing what they're doing because they're worried about the perception. I care about perception a lot, but the perception I'm trying to put out there is the reason why we're doing these things is to enable our people. It's not to reduce anything else, but to make sure our people can focus on what they're great at, which is people.
Mm-hmm.
Customers love talking to customers. I hate calling a call center and it's an AI bot. Or like I'm on a Woolies website and it goes, hey, how can I help you today? And I go, I want to contact my delivery driver. And says, the best way to order the delivery is logging in. I'm like, that's not what I'm asking for. Like,
Yeah.
it infuriates me when we don't use AI the right way. Like, that's not AI. That's just chatbot stuff. But I want our people to feel like the tools that have been given to them enable them to do what they're great at. So that's some of the metrics I've given myself to say that if we produce any AI or agentic elements of our call center, of our service, it is going to be honing in on people.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be reducing our talk time. It's going to be reducing our abandon rate. It's going to reduce the time the vehicle's going to be off-road. Those are the things that matter to people. I don't want to just generically say, I want to use AI 50% in Salesforce, because that doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah. Or replace 50% of our headcount with AI.
But even if I did that, like, that's such a big step away. Like, if I'm being very honest, look at the tool sets we've been provided, I don't think we're close to even contemplating that. Like, agentic has only been in use in the last 2 years. I've been to the Salesforce events. What we've been provided, I can't trust. These aren't live demos. These are well orchestrated videos of agentic AI being used. I've wanted to storm the stage and go, let me have a crack. Let me see if I can break this thing. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I want to see it in practice. And I know Fisher Paykel and the work that Rudy's been doing is being fantastic. These organizations are being molded by Salesforce. That I want that authenticness. I want us to be able to go, hey, us as an organization, we did this. And that's really important to me, because if it's authentic, it means it matters. If it's not authentic, I don't feel there's an element of honesty there, or there's an honesty element missing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. If you had an exec that was jumping up and down saying, we need this shiny new tool because I've heard all about it, but not necessarily your current environment. We're not commenting on the internal environment there. If you were working in an environment where an exec was like, we need this product, we need to go all in on AI, but you weren't achieving ROI on the CRM as is, and it wasn't meeting the criteria for success in your opinion, how would you manage that?
I'd be like, this sounds cool. Help me understand this a bit more. Where's your motivation coming from? Which tech company have you been speaking to? What have they promised you? What are the things that I'd be asking question after question. Like, if you're pumped, then that means that this is important to you. Let me get psyched about it too. Let me get on your level. Help me understand a little bit more. What is it that you're trying to achieve? And sometimes they go, look, I don't really know what it is. I just feel really invigorated by this. I spoke to someone and they made me feel inspired about this. Or, TED Talk, Instagram post, whatever it is. I'm not going to yuck your yum. I'm all about this. Let's get around it. Help me understand it. Get me to your level. And then let's go, okay, how do we legitimately do this? Let's break it down to bite-sized chunks. Something my father told me very young, the easiest way to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. It's the only way you can do it. If you can spend all the time analyzing it and trying to come up with creative ways, but let's digest this. Let's take it bit by bit. Cool. That's the end goal you want to get to. What's the first step before that, right? It could be commercials. It could be engaging. It could be, do we have the right environments? Do we have the people? Whatever it is, just incremental steps. And as we start articulating what that is, there is a cost, there's a time, and there is an effort. Are we willing to be able to set up ourselves for that? Yes, cool. Let's keep going. What are we going to deprioritize because we're going to bring this in? And if we're going to deprioritize, if we can't deprioritize, who are we going to bring in to help us do this? Cool. More cost, more effort, more time. So you just break down the conversation. Like, I'm not going to ruin anyone's party and go, you don't know what you're talking about, whatever it is. Like, it's not my role to do that. My role is to support and nurture that passion.
I thought the answer would be to get the house in order first, like to let's get what's working, what's not working. So like, is that part of that discussion too? Like addressing the where you mentioned elephants, but elephants in the room of like, we're already investing all this money into this platform, and it's not necessarily delivering what we're expecting. So let's fix that part up first. But I get the point around not wanting to put the brakes on and discourage that enthusiasm in the platform.
Yeah, look, AI relies on one thing, and no organization I've seen has done it perfectly, is data, right? And we're talking multi-source, lakes, whatever you want to call it. There are organizations that are shaping themselves really well, and they're heading towards the right direction. And I know organizations have got some pretty trustworthy data. But as soon as you introduce an AI piece that sits on top of that, yeah, you've got to work out, are we in the right position? Do we have the right tools? Blah, blah, blah. But that's part of the effort, the time, and the cost. That becomes like, what's the first step? Well, the first step is, do we have the right data? Do we have the right people? Do we have the right systems? Do we have the right support mechanisms? Blah, blah, blah. Like all of those questions, it's not up to the executive to answer those. The executive has a strong team that sits behind them, between them and their success and the organization's success, to answer some of these things. And if someone said to me, oh, there's a new AI tool out there, I'm going, there's a million of them. What's this one do differently? There's a billion out there, right? And you can probably create AIs using AI now. What I'm more interested in is going, why are you so psyched about this one in particular? What is it that this is causing you to feel like you need to voice something so passionately that it needs my attention to join you on this journey? How we get there is secondary. Like we can carve out paths that if you got the money, you can do whatever you need to do. And I know the data part is really important, but I find the most important part is, and we're all busy and we always have things on, why is it so important to this exec?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is it that's making them tick about this right now? And once I understand that, then I can go, if I've got a trusted relationship, I can go, hey, just being honest with you, and if this is safe between these four walls, I would say that we need to deliver this first, because once we deliver this, then we can access this information over here. Or we need to draw a line in the sand right now in this program of work, kill it, take whatever funds we have and move it into here. We need to do it quickly. You've got to give them the options that works best, because I know, as a man child myself, I get excited really quickly. Consequences be damned. Like,
Yeah.
I'm psyched to go to South America. Great. How am I going to get there? I don't know. What flight?
I'll work it out.
I'll work it out later.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So final question, and we're moving into this world where there are now products that are being released, whether or not they're ready, who knows? But there's going to be this demand where companies are hiring for skill sets that aren't readily available. So, you might be hiring for someone to do a Agentforce project, and there will be a few people that have done it before, and but I would say the bulk of the market won't have worked with some of the newer products. So if you're interviewing a candidate, and I think this is important for candidates to hear, because people are going to be applying for jobs where they don't already have the track record of delivering. What kind of competencies are you looking for in someone to give them a chance to go, okay, cool, you haven't done what I need you to have done, but what I can see in you and what I can see you've done, or the how you're demonstrating your willingness and abilities, I'm going to put you into this role?
It's a really good question, Ben. I look at some of these things, like I'm going through CVs at the moment, and they're like, I'm a agentic legend, or whatever they're calling it on Trailhead, whatever the marketing tool is. And I go, that's really cool that you invested that time. What does that mean? How does that translate into real world? And they go, oh, well, I'm certified. So they're like, none of us have got a real life experience right now. So you can't rely on that too much. You got to do it. I think that's almost like that's your ticket to play. It doesn't mean anything. It just shows that you've done your trailhead. What's really important to me is the willingness to learn. It's the human side of you that goes, I have a curious nature that I want to continuously improve. And I'm going to do that, using my own time. I want to make sure that my continuous improvement is based on this area. Like I haven't touched this agentic legend thing that I keep seeing on LinkedIn or whatever it's called. And that's not because I'm stubborn. It's because I am stubborn. I'm keen to look into it. I'm more interested in seeing how other people have iterated. Like, yeah, you've created an agentic agent or agentic AI piece of tool. How have you taken it further? Like, if you could, what would be your thinking? Like, the questions I ask is, you've created a bot. This AI piece is going to go forth and it's going to automate all these things. It's going to summarize your account screen for you. What's next? And I want to know what their thinking is. If they go, well, next what I do is I do this solution, blah, blah, blah. What I'd rather hear is they go, well, who's my customer? Who are the people I need to speak to understand their perspective? How do I make sure that what I'm doing is adding value? What are some ROI metrics that I can share to say that this is a value add piece of tool? Those are the things like that, that lateral thinking. We often have developers who just go, give me a ticket and I'll do it. I look for developers that go, I've got this ticket. Can I question a little bit of this? I love those conversations. I like, oh, yeah, why am I doing it? And help me understand in the grand scheme of things why this comes together, and challenge it in a way that goes, I actually care a lot about the work that I do. I take pride in the work that I do. I don't want my name associated with something that I don't quite understand. That for me would be what I'd be looking for. And if people say, oh, look, I've built all these agents in the past and they're great, I'm like, you're a godsend. I'd love to know more, because like doing it is in the industry at the moment pretty difficult, because it's not, I don't know if it's a lack of confidence or if it's a lack of technical acumen, but I haven't seen many people put their hand up and say, look, we've got Agentforce in full flight and outside of the arenas that we normally go to, because the developers are often not the ones on stage. The developers are the ones who are actually quite quiet on LinkedIn and other networking websites. They don't tend to share what they do. That's the group I want to hone into.
Yeah, so true.
Let me understand where you're coming from, because what I love knowing is, what are the developers actually doing? And that's why I love having a high performing team, because I can sit with them and go, help me understand what you're doing. And they can, in layman's terms, be very clear in what they're trying to accomplish and what they're doing. And that is really important.
Awesome. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. You're a legend, and really enjoyed hearing more about everything you're doing now and what you've been through, and just your view and take on things. I think that's important for people that might be coming up into that product owner, kind of product manager world as well, to kind of learn some lessons from you and what you've experienced. If anyone wants to reach out, pick your brains on anything, be it your approach, what you've been through from a technology perspective, views and things like that, where's the best place to find you?
Look, LinkedIn is probably the one. You'll see me in various comments and commenting on all sorts of things and whatnot. But honestly, yeah, LinkedIn, just find me, Aiden Fernandez. You'll see me somewhere lurking around in people's posts, often celebrating the great things that people are accomplishing, because I think it's a great place to do it. But I have to say, Ben, this has been a privilege. I want to say thank you for, and a moment of gratitude, say thank you for your questions. They've been very, very invoking. Like I really had to think about a few of these, and it's taken me pleasantly by surprise to be able to go, shit, we are very lucky to be in the industry that we have. Even with Salesforce, and we know people aren't perfect, especially organizations, but God, we're lucky to be a part of this ecospace. So thank you for allowing me to have the platform and the time with you to go through that.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you.